All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You don't know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Alice, and I'm joined by
The
Brian.
three adjectives for the conflict in my life are capitalist, time-consuming, and heterosexual.
And Niko.
I hate when I go to Costco and I'm locked in combat and my partner plays like the Ace of Hearts, and then we got to deal with that whole flashback.
And August.
I'm ready to chase the legally distinct rabbit.
And MK.
Is a common rider suit a mech? The greatest thread in the history of forums locked by a moderator after 12,239 pages of heated debate.
This time around, we're discussing a game that lets you inflict massive mecha emotional damage on your friends, Random Access Histories. Let's launch into it.
Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
Well, guys, it's happened again. There's more than 3 of us here today.
Yeah.
We are joined from Follow the Leader, August and MK. Hello.
Hi. We did that at exactly the same time.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's weird, right? I don't
You
I
say
don't know
this
where to
every
go from
time we have guests like it's Among Us and we have
Like
imposters
these people came
now.
from nowhere.
I don't actually exist. I'm a figment of your imagination brought forth by somebody playing a particularly high card of a certain suit.
Damn. What about all those job references I asked you to do for me?
Furious card playing happening on the line with HR.
Now, as we know, by the end of this podcast, there will be only 3 hosts remaining, so everybody keep that in mind. Of the 5 of us, only 3 will remain, so just prep yourself for that. But
Yep.
Follow the Leader. Let's talk about it. Follow the Leader is an LGBTQ plus actual play podcast that focuses on telling character-driven stories through the use of GM-less tabletop games where all players can take a lead. They just started season 8 this year, about back in July, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
Tell us about it, August and MK. Which one of you wants to do the pitch, I guess?
I will selfishly do the pitch because FTL is my baby. My
I was going to
bestie-
say it's got to be August.
Yeah, my bestie joked that I'm in a polyamorous relationship with my spouse and my podcast.
What days does the podcast get? Which one does the spouse get?
Okay, is it polyamory or shared custody?
Kitchen table pod poly relationship.
Yeah.
Well, now that the spouse is on the podcast, it's easier to do shared custody, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the hack. That's the hack. We know this because we had someone marry into the podcast recently who then immediately got to join it. So that's exactly how it works.
Nice. Nice.
Shout out to Kyle marrying into whatever this is. But yeah, tell us about your little polycule podcast.
So FTL's been going for almost 6.5 years now. I'll be honest, like a lot of people, I was inspired by Friends at the Table because, you know, Fat really kind of opened my eyes to what gaming could be outside of D&D. And then, you know, introducing the concept of a GM-less game, it's like, oh, hey, this is cool. What if we did this? It was also an excuse to pressure my friends into constantly playing games with me. You know,
like we don't do it willingly.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like if there's a podcast involved, it feels a little more concrete than just trying to schedule a game for funsies.
People are more hesitant to suddenly have something come up an hour before a podcast record than they are a regular game session.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're talking about a tabletop role-playing system, but something that we haven't discussed yet on this podcast and something some listeners might not know is what is a GM-less game? So talk about your experiences because Follow the Leader is very unique in that you don't have your Matt Mercer type running the table, coming in with their little figures and their story. It's all of you writing a story together.
Yeah, so it was, I'll be honest, like, it's a little difficult making the jump into a game without, like, a GM guiding, because it puts a lot more responsibility. You know, the responsibility is shared. Everybody has to, you know, pitch in to make sure that we're all having a good time. But it's also very freeing because you realize that you can, you know, all of the random thoughts that you have, you know, all of the impulsive thoughts can have more of an outlet in some ways, because you're not necessarily, I don't know, maybe I'm pitching this badly, but it's like you're not necessarily running up against like the walls of something like Living Greyhawk or Eberron or something like that, because you're creating this stuff as you go. A lot of GM-less games, especially like low prep ones, will have questions at the beginning to help you flesh out your world and what you're doing there. And so you're more responsible for the guardrails of your experience than you necessarily are, especially if you're running like pre-generated content and like D&D or Pathfinder.
But you also then become the final arbiter of your story and your character's story in a way that if you have a really good GM, like you can still get that in a GM'd game, especially if the structure like allows you to do that. But in a GM-less game, like a lot of times you'll read in the rules, like you make a decision, the other players can weigh in, but you're the one who gets final say as long as it's your turn, which is really like, it feels very daunting the first couple times you do it because you're like, oh God, I don't want to be the one to make a decision. But once you've done it a couple times, it's like, oh no, this is really fun and engaging. And as long as you're like all super clocked into the game system on the whole, it is so much fun to just go, all right, we're all in, as opposed to having a GM who's kind of not always, but sometimes prescribing the story for you.
One of the things I love whenever I listen to a Follow the Leader episode is that it really becomes conversational. Obviously, y'all have run Pathfinder and a few other things where the dynamic isn't the same, but, you know, I really love how, especially, like, you know, listening to the mainline episodes for the game we're going to talk about today, Random Access Histories, it really becomes like, I think I'd like to do this. Oh yeah, that's interesting to me. What if we also did this? And it really becomes something that you build together in a way, which is, it could be refreshing if all someone has ever experienced is just like, you listen to a person give you the setting for 15 minutes and then you start interacting, you know?
It's improv, right? If you're best served in a GM-less game by knowing how to yes and.
My entire life is yes-anding. That's how I became trans. So speaking of being trans, you guys are pretty upfront and honest about being LGBTQ+.
Yeah.
Y'all gay?
Just a little bit.
You can't keep asking all of our guests this.
I just have to know. Well, we've had other people who are very cishet white men, so I want to celebrate when we have queers on our queer podcast.
Stephen and PMC taking strays.
It's one of those things where I wanted us to put our pronouns up at the front because I wanted to scare off people who think that that's bullshit. There's actually an episode in the outtakes where I talk about that with Aaron Catano Saez when he was on for Exquisite Biome. We talked about that a little bit, and we all were basically in agreement, get fucked. People who don't respect pronouns, so...
Right. Totally.
Let's do the litmus test. Hey guys, what's everybody's pronouns? Mine are she, her.
We're doing a pronoun circle right now.
Why not?
Why? I was going to say the exact same thing. Why not?
Yeah, well, she, her.
We did. What order are we going? I'll go. I'm he, they.
Today I'm they, them. Tomorrow, who knows? Maybe I won't want to be referred to. It really kind of depends.
I'm they, them.
Well, we just lost anybody we needed to lose, so that was good.
That was actually a conversation we had when we were launching our podcast. We were like, you know, obviously we're queer, but like, how upfront do we want to be about that? And I think we've had a good experience being as upfront about it as we have. So yeah, agree.
Well, we'll talk more about Follow the Leader later, but we're here to talk about something else together. Random Access Histories. So let's talk about it. Random Access Histories was produced in 2019 by Rufus Roswell, known as Roswellian, on itch.io. Listeners who find that name familiar may recognize that work from writing the Giant Killer Playbook supplemental for Beam Saber, as well as the Rearguard Supply Drop, or some of his other notable games such as War in the Year 3000 or Kubrick. Now, what do we know about Rufus? Well, we've got two experts on Rufus. What do y'all know about him?
I wouldn't go so far as to say an expert, but he's a really great guy, very creative. I deeply admire his game writing skills. He's very good at, I think, drawing emotion from people using the text of the game, like using the rules of the game. Like, The Giant Killer is a really great playbook that kind of invokes a certain sort of awe through the mechanics of the playbook. I want to do a Rearguard episode because Beam Saber includes some rules for GM-less play. I want to do a Rearguard episode so badly because all of those playbooks look so fucking good.
Meanwhile, I will just run another Rearguard one-shot. I'll do it. I'll do it. Just tell me when and I'll be there.
I love that dynamic in a group of friends who play TTRPGs. Unfortunately, I think right now we're in our forever GM phase where people who haven't been forever GMing are going to have to break out of their shells, but we've had some great people working on our GM'd games. Brian runs a couple of really great games, so.
Where do you find the time for these one-shots, I guess would be my question to MK. Where do you find the time for all of what you do would be the second question.
I don't. I'm literally booked until December now. But honestly, charity streams.
Nice.
Charity streams is when I end up finding the time to run a one shot. That's about the only time I can block out.
I would love to do one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, charity streams are fun. Highly recommend. You don't have to do like a 48-hour all-nighter. You can do a little 12-hour, set up a Tiltify, have some fun.
You can do a 48-hour all-nighter.
Yeah.
MK has an
need to
agenda.
Shifts.
I need to shout out really quickly for Rearguard also that those playbooks are co-written by Caro Assertion, whose games I also very much love. They're just hosted on Rufus's itch page, and Caro and Rufus will both side-eye me if I let this episode come out without mentioning that. So
No, we love it. We love crediting things correctly.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, the games that y'all cover. I mean, part of the reason that I wanted to reach out and have y'all on and, like, talk to you about what Follow the Leader does is because, like, we've covered Armor Stir Advent, which I think a lot of people know because of Friends at the Table. But I've been interested for a long time in these smaller 2 to however many player GM-less, like, exploratory games, especially mech ones, which I've been quietly hoarding on my itch.io in my collections. But, you know, it was kind of hard for us to figure out how we would want to host an episode just on one of them, or if we'd want to do a lightning round, and, like, we weren't necessarily interested in becoming an actual play podcast, and we were like, you know, how are we going to feature these things?
listen, I respect it. I respect it so much.
But then it very naturally works out that it's like, hey, we can have a fun time talking about what it's like to play Random Access Histories, and then we can point people at your episodes to go, hey, go listen to it played. We don't have to do that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and also go listen to it played.
Yeah.
Those are
it's really good.
I have only heard the charity stream episode, but it was really good.
Yeah.
So shout outs.
And we'll wait. Listeners can go and listen to those. We'll wait.
God, no, we're not doing this bit again.
No.
All right, welcome back. It's been 3 hours since you went and listened to that charity stream episode. But yeah, let's talk about Random Access Histories. And as you are now our on-the-field correspondents for these short games, just know that you'll be called on again, both of you, when the time comes. So
my body is ready.
So this game is super accessible. It's only about 10 pages and about 2 to 4 hours of actual gameplay, depending on what you and your co-pilot get up to. This is a 2-player game, and in contrast to Armor Austere, the other TTRPG that we covered, this is very rules light and much more focused on a collaborative storytelling effort. The only thing you need to play is a PDF or printed copy, which can be grabbed on itch.io for only $10, a friend or a frenemy, whatever you want, just another person,
I love
a deck
the idea
of cards,
confronting
and
someone you have a fraught relationship with and demanding that they play a TTRPG with you. More people need to do this.
Demanding that they play a TTRPG with like a really intentionally intimate sort of thing. Like that relationship is gonna be something after that game, no matter what.
I am going to inflict character bleed on you, and you will like it.
Yeah.
I was about to say, we need to implement Pokemon rules. Like, if you make eye contact, you are in the game with me now.
just imagine Shar Aznabal and Amuro Ray playing this. I feel like they could have solved that whole conflict. I'm just saying.
So does Shar play the Gundam, or does Amuro play a Gelgoog?
The Xiong. Actually, Shar's counterattack is just a one-shot of this. Anyway, hey, friends. What did you all know about Random Access Histories before we covered it on this podcast? Brian?
Nothing. I like RPGs. I'm bad about knowing about them. And so like I know we wanted to cover one, and I basically just looked at Niko for a really long time until she decided to put one on the table, because she's not kidding. She has like a OneDrive folder that's like full of PDFs.
Hey, did you know if you back a lot of like really good and important itch.io bundles for various causes, because our world is a hellscape, you'll end up with something like 800 fantastic RPGs that you never get to play. Mm-hmm. See, I live vicariously through Follow the Leader, because you'll announce like what game you're gonna play, and I'll be like, I have that in my OneDrive. Down to the very funny experience of us deciding to play Chasing the Ace, and I beat you to linking the OneDrive because I'm like, I've been waiting. I've been ready this whole time.
But yeah, I had no idea. I did know about, so I know that Niko's been a Follow the Leader fan forever. In fact, Follow the Leader came up when we were putting our podcast together in terms of like touchstones of what we wanted our vibes to be.
No, don't react that way. No, it's embarrassing.
So that was just kind of how this came together. But I had absolutely no experience with this other than reading the PDF, which I also recommend doing because it has a lot of really neat things going on.
Our 3 touchstones: Follow the Leader, Friends at the Table, and the Doughboys. That's for only me.
Niko cut her fucking webcam feed when you said.
August, what did you know about Random Access Histories before we discussed it today?
So, a little apocryphal story, because I'm not sure if Rufus tells it this way anymore, but Rufus and a couple of friends and I were in Boston. I was up visiting a bunch of folks, and we managed to connect and hang out and stuff, and I was chattering incessantly about one of my OTPs at the time. And Rufus took some of that chattering, and you, at the very least, I can definitely see some of the influences of that chattering in this game. So I joke that this is a game that was made for me. This is my whole "it was made for me." It's literally my favorite TTRPG of all time. I will play it at the drop of a hat. I just deeply, deeply love it and have ever since it was in like its very first iteration.
Can I know more about that OTP though?
Niko knows what that OTP is.
Yes, I do. I do know about this. I will take this information to my grave, or No. You mention, you are the bravest person I know because you directly mention your Tumblr on your podcast.
Yeah.
Which is something that I embraced when I guested with y'all, but was terrifying. So
yeah, it's
real ones know. If you're still using the only relevant social media platform, you'll know.
I will go ahead and own up to it. So, Friends at the Table Counterweight season, my OTP is Cass and Audie.
And these ones know because we're going to be covering Counterweight later this year. So they actually, I have made them listen to all of Counterweight. So
Yes!
Yeah, they know.
Yes.
They're here. Brian, I think, is on the floor.
You know what you should do for your friends? Listen to 43 episodes of a podcast to cover on your own podcast.
Listen, at least Counterweight isn't the longest Friends at the Table season, okay?
Yeah, Twilight Mirage is 60, and you have to listen to that too, Alice. Sorry. You already said yes.
Okay. For every For every single one, another price of smiles. I just need you to know.
We're gonna die here.
I will inflict one price of smiles. I will drop a price of smiles on Australia every time you make me cover another long-form podcast. They've made me read books for this podcast. They've made me listen to podcasts for this podcast. And all I'm doing is like, Mecha Musume exists. Maybe we should talk about its problematic nature. But whatever. MK, what did you know about Random Access Histories before we covered it?
So I was literally this morning trying to think back and had to like go to the itch page and be like, when did this game come out? Because it's my memories of 2019 are shot. And I was like, do I remember where I was when this game dropped? Was I even I know that I was friends with Rufus when this game dropped because I know when we met. But I was like, this is a game that has kind of been in my brain for so long that I'm like, oh, it came out in 2019. For some reason, I thought it came out earlier than that. But like, I'm on that charity one shot for FTL.
Yep.
So yeah, I've definitely dabbled in this game a little bit before today. It is one of my favorite TTRPGs of all time. It definitely influenced the way that I think about mechs. In a way that sometimes I will go, oh yeah, this is a ubiquitous thing about mechs. No, it's not. You're thinking about Random Access Histories.
And that brings us back to Niko. What did you know about this before we covered it?
Yeah, thank you so much. I was betrayed in the cockpit. My cat tried to unplug my computer, so that was fun. Anyway.
Did it cause a bloom?
Yeah, it did cause a bloom. I strongly remembered the day that I was at the parking lot of the Petco and paid $30 crisp to take her from someone I found on Craigslist. And I was like, damn, was that a mistake? Anyway. No, so I didn't know Random Access Histories until I heard it on FTL, but I was surprised to find out that I actually, of course, as you mentioned, like, I knew Rufus's work already from listening to Partisan on Friends at the Table, where Jack DeKeat plays the Giant Killer playbook. And like, I started going through the different games, and like, War in the Year 3000, I believe, is also hacked for Friends at the Table at one point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, his work just kept coming up, and I went through the catalog and was like, oh, this is okay. I think I've heard a lot of these and didn't realize it. So I was excited to actually cover this one and have it be one of my favorite tropes of all time, which is that kind of neural bleed. So,
Yeah.
But that was the extent of what I knew before I heard it played.
To put Niko on blast, because she won't do it, Niko's character in our Armorister game is in a relationship with her mech. Like, this game is about her.
Yeah, I could play, if I could find someone who could play...
Don't clap for that.
Thank you, the pity clap. If I could find someone who could play Dulcinea, who is named that on purpose because of the fact of her existence, I would probably break down and cry and potentially marry that person, which is, again, why we should probably not implement Pokemon rules, TTRPG confrontations. A lot of marriage is going to be happening that may be like, maybe we should chill on that one.
Yeah, I can tell you a story about me and my spouse.
The lore.
When you locked eyes and the music started.
We locked eyes and I had them play test a TTRPG with me.
Oh, now that is a next level
Oh.
intimacy.
They went along with it because they had a crush on me, and I asked them because I had a crush on them. But then it still took us like 2 years to figure our shit out
That's really beautiful.
because we're useless and gay.
Hey, are RPGs gay?
I don't know, man. I don't know if they are. I didn't know anything about this before Niko put this on. That's my answer. So what is this? Let's go over the synopsis. The Itch.io page gives the evocative pitch. There is a term called pixel bloom that refers to the light from a single pixel spilling outward, blurring into and illuminating its neighbors. When scientists were asked to name the manner of information sharing between an entangled mech and pilot, they remembered the seeping glow of figures on an otherwise dark cathode ray screen. When the bloom occurs, memories, thoughts, emotions, and sensations may bleed from pilot to mech and back again.
I love that description.
Players in Random Access Histories choose which co-pilot to play, the mech or the human pilot. They decide on a general descriptors for themselves, the conflict that they're caught up in, and the interpersonal conflict between the mech and the pilot they'll be exploring with the game. Then, taking turns starting scenes and using playing cards to prompt the bloom of memory sharing, they explore the times they've had together and how their shared memories help or hinder them in the larger struggle. At the end of the game, they tally the value of the cards played to determine whether the co-pilots achieve full sync or fall into desynced. And with that, we'll head to the break, and when we come back, we'll talk Random Access Histories.
Hey, Niko here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
Welcome back from the break. So, we're going to be talking about a TTRPG, and we're going to be talking about a GM-less TTRPG, so I want to talk about that with y'all. What are y'all's experiences with a GM-less system? Like, how much of it have you done before? Where have you been with it? What do you like about it, and what don't you like about it? We'll start alphabetically with August.
So pre-listening to Friends at the Table, I had no idea that GM-less games even existed. But then I listened to Friends at the Table, and it was specifically Follow was my first exposure to GM-less games, and ever since then, I've been in love. Obviously, I was so in love about it, I had to start a podcast about it.
The ultimate expression of love.
Yeah, exactly. I think that my favorite thing about GM-less games is also, I don't want to say my least favorite thing, but it's, a blessing and a curse, which is the leaning on collaborative, emphasis on the collaborative part of collaborative storytelling, because, you have everybody there that you can kind of lean on, but you also, you get what you put into it. And so if you're not willing or able to put a lot into it, you don't necessarily get a lot out of it because you don't have a GM there to kind of help, fuel the fire in the way that GMs sometimes can. So it's the blessing and the curse of responsibility. You become an adult and it's like, yay, I can eat ice cream for dinner, but then you have to deal with the consequences of eating ice cream for dinner.
That hits close to home to me.
Shout out to all those who don't eat lactose. Let's go.
Shout out to those of us who still eat lactose and just die.
Yeah, that's me and Niko right there. We're on the same team.
Yep. Team, I remember lactase only when my partner goes, hey, did you take lactase with that?
Yeah.
But yeah, to speak on the self-starter part of this, and this is more of a conversation. I don't have to go around and we ask everybody how we feel about this shit.
No, legally
right?
we have to do it in order.
I feel like I've done that too much this podcast, so we're just going to have a conversation. Thanks, August, for your opinion.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it? I think it's something that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people did. When you get into a TTRPG, some people really do, here's my special guy, I'm going to be my special guy, and I'm going to do what I want to do. We've all met the rogue in the corner of the bar, right? They're here and they're playing their game. And something about a GM-less game is you do have to be a bit selfish. And for a lot of us, I mean, for me, I was always like, I want to play the healer, I want to be the heal slut, and I'm just going to be supportive of other people's stories. And in a GM-led game, that's easier because there's always somebody to kind of move the needle and kind of guide the party. But in a GM-less game, you have to move that needle yourself. Everybody does. And it can be kind of, I don't know, it's hard to be selfish in a game like this, right? Like, listening to your guys' recording, you're very special about your little mech. It's a very important, special little mech. And you realize that and you talk about it, but having that energy to come forward and say, no, I know what I want out of this, and I'm going to do it, but in a collaborative way where you're willing to kind of meet in the middle. Brian, what about you? You've played a few of these. You've actually quote unquote led a few of these with me involved.
I've actually made one.
Wait, you have?
But
have I not played it?
Yeah. No, it was during the Reach game, during the second iteration
During
of
the
it.
reboot, after I abandoned Brian cruelly.
Yes. But yeah, I've played these. I've always, much like the way Friends at the Table does it, I've always played them in the context of a game that I am the GM of. And so, like, even though they are GM-less games, because of the atmosphere that we've had at the table for like a year or whatever up to the point of playing it, I do still end up being kind of a moderator. But I have played a bunch of them, and like I said, I made one. It's not very... I would never publish it because it's actually not very good, but it was really fun to make. But yeah, I wanted to talk about too, like the subgenre that this game inhabits, which is the deck of cards GM-less tabletop game, and like the most common sort of thing that to grab on there is that you play with a deck of playing cards and you thematically ascribe like concepts onto the suites or the numbers, so that you can use that as the apparatus that gives you like variables and chance and like makes it feel like a game. So that's just like that's been all of the ones that I've played. So like the Quiet Year, the Ground itself, the one that I made. We did Follow too, actually, at one point.
Yeah, we did Follow.
Yeah,
that was great.
And then we're about to also play Kingdom in another one of our campaigns as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They're really good as interstitials to just have like a break in the beat. Something I loved about the Friends at the Table. This is a hint towards that episode. I kind of like when they broke it up with but what's the big picture using the weird systems? MK, you're a theater kid, so this is kind of your realm, right?
I don't like the way you said that.
I'm not that kind of theater kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
theater kid derogatory.
I'm a backstage technical theater kid. I'm not an actor.
Like my very brave spouse. This explains things. I don't know why. Tech crew kids hit different.
Tech crew kids do hit different. We're still theater kids, but we're a different genre of theater kid. Like, I'm not absolving myself from the fact that, like, theater kids suck.
You were complicit in theater.
Yes, I am complicit in theater, but I think that there is a different energy from the tired stage manager lighting designer as opposed to the actor director, which is very obvious when when your entire major was mostly actor directors. GM-less games. Getting back on topic. GM-less games. Yeah, I've dabbled in them. The first...
Once or twice?
Once or twice. You know, on occasion. The first, similarly to August, the first time I heard a GM-less game was on Friends at the Table, but it was actually the Counterweight Kingdom game.
Yeah.
Because I listened to Counterweight before I listened to Hyron.
Same.
So I hit the Kingdom game first, and I actually just finished a Kingdom game interstitial, not interstitial, the RPG Our Hearts Intertwine, by my good friend Riley Hopkins, but an interstitial game for a campaign where we played Kingdom 2nd Edition, where I went, oh fuck, this game like rules, actually, which I think is actually the first time I've played Kingdom. I've been doing this for 6 years, and I haven't played Kingdom yet, which is kind of wild to me.
The grip that Lame Mage Games has on the GM-less TTRPG community. Where
Shout
would we
out
be?
to Ben Robbins, honestly.
Yeah.
But what I like about GM-less games is that you can have, like, you have the collaborative bit of it, which can be tricky if everyone's not like 100% clocked into it. But you also have games like Kingdom where you can still be working on your own agenda and fucking around with other people's plans. Like, when you have a GM-less game that has PvP, it rules. And you can have a GM'd game that has PvP. But I think that where GM-less games kind of shine is that because you're all telling the story together, you can just kind of look at someone and say, like, no, I'm going to overthrow you, and, like, to say more on Kingdom. And you get a little, we'll get into Random Access Histories, but you have a little bit of that with the desync.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
The desync mechanic in Random Access Histories, where you can say, yeah, you make that decision, and I can't tell you that you're not going to make that decision, but I am going to tell you I don't like it.
I think which
I think is very fun.
Yeah, I think one of the cornerstone things that a GM-less TTRPG needs is like some kind of valve for healthy table disagreement, because you don't have like a moderator otherwise. And so like things like overthrowing, or like the desync, or like, what is it called in Ground itself when you like take a token?
I know what it is in Quiet Year. It's contempt.
Yeah, it's a contempt token. I love that.
Yeah.
I love a contempt token.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to build off that, my first experience with a GM-less game was Follow. Shout out to the Seattle story gaming community at Phoenix Comics and Games on Capitol Hill. We love a queer gaming community, and they were very kind, because I do think there is a big mental leap you have to make when, like, in my instance, I had only ever really played D&D 5e and D20 games and Pathfinder, first edition.
Yeah.
And making the leap, I think there are two big leaps that will make RPGs so much fun for people if they haven't made them already, which is one, let one of your characters die.
Totally.
Like, literally kill your darlings. Like, the first time you experience a character death in any game, but, like, my first time was in a D20 game. Like, the first time that Alice killed my character in the D20 game.
Hey.
In the year of our Lord 2016, I believe, when you killed her.
Hey.
Anyway.
She was possessed? I had to.
No, it was a completely correct decision, but it was really interesting because it was the first time that I had stopped thinking of my character as something, like, so precious that I had to defend at all times, and started thinking about my character as an element in a story I was telling with my friends.
Totally.
And, like, when you're willing to go, actually the most narratively satisfying thing to happen right now would be for this character to die, that opens up so much for you. Now, you don't necessarily want to go the Dre friends at the table route, which is any chance you have to die, you die immediately.
Yeah, you're right.
Every time that happens, I'm like, Dre, I'm looking you directly in the eye. Why is this happening again?
Dre, I respect it, but also, what are you doing?
Stop letting your characters die.
Honestly, at a certain point, it became the games actually actively wanted to kill them, though. Like, sometimes it's legit not their fault.
But, yeah, no, so, I mean, if you're not ready for GM-less games, but you are in a 5e game right now, and there is an opportunity for your character to die, and you have that initial feeling that's like, oh god, I don't want that to happen, let it pass through you and feel what that feels like and how cool that can be to set up your next character, how much of a big effect that can have on your game and on your party. And then, yeah, go find a GM-less game to play, because it is helpful almost to have someone more experienced walk you through it the first time, because they can help you make that leap.
Yeah.
To going, oh, I can sacrifice characters, or I can insist on character actions, or I can push back specifically to achieve a narrative result, which becomes so fun. Like, once you unlock that, you can do anything, and it's super fun.
It's something I'm not very good at yet, so I shout out to you for being able to do it. I'm like, no, these characters are my babies.
Well, the thing is, it also might make you bloodthirsty, though.
Yeah, if we want to talk about killing characters.
Hey, listen, I just want to share the love.
I've never had a character die. I feel like I'm missing out on an important experience.
I'll get you next time, Brian.
We can fix that.
I almost had a character die, and then I revealed a season later that she only faked her death.
You know what? That's the way to do it.
We love a faked death. If you don't see the body, they ain't dead.
No body, no death. This is what I'm saying.
Quintessential rule.
Yeah, I find it letting your darling die, especially in the context of a GM-less game or any game, makes me more protective of the ones I don't want to die. Like, I'm in Brian's games, I think Brian knows the ones I never want to die. I feel like I'm very upfront with that. And then the ones I'm like, eh. But also, when you play games where you're supposed to die like the heart, it happens. But we're not a TTRPG podcast. We're a goddamn mecha podcast. So we got to talk about mecha.
Yeah, we had to bring experts on.
August, you touched on this before about Random Access Histories really shading what a mecha is to you, but what's a mecha to you?
So I'm, I guess, a little bit of a classicist. A mecha is usually some form of mechanical object that is larger than the creature piloting it. In my opinion, I don't necessarily consider Kamen Riders to be mechas.
Controversial.
Yeah, hot take.
Teach the controversy.
I literally only just thought of it this morning, so that's fine.
There's no right answer. We've discussed this and we'll always rehash this, but your truth is your truth, and that's okay. Sentai shows are mecha, and you're wrong. But
no, I do think it's interesting because something you have in common with Brian there is scale, which is something that we've had to discuss, like when we talked about Fallout Power Armor. there was a little bit of friction where it's like, is this big enough for us to call this a mech?
I feel like Fallout Power Armor is big enough because, like, there is a sense of you are something small within this large thing that I think gets communicated very well in the TV show, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. MK, what about you? What is mecha? What is
I'm
mech?
on like the opposite scale in that like my definition of a mecha is purely based on vibes. Like I straight up I will just look at something and be like, yeah, that's a mech. Like I don't think I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't think I have a strict definition / taxonomy for what a mech is. It's pure vibes. Kamen Rider, the reason why I brought up Kamen Rider is because I think that Kamen Rider is a mech depending on its season.
Yeah.
Not every Kamen Rider is a mech. Some Kamen Rider is mech, but not all of them.
Where does Double fall on this? Because Double's the only one that I'm really familiar with.
Double is sometimes a mech. Double Extreme, I think, is a mech. I don't think the other ones qualify.
See, this is super...
Actually, that's not true, but I cannot get into the weeds about double forms right now. So I'm not going
This is super interesting because we just recorded an episode on Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and we had to be very specific about that one because there are times where Godzilla is like or Mechagodzilla rather, is like a big robot. And then, like, we had to find one where it's like, okay, there are pilots in this situation, and it was interesting to discuss the differences in the different versions of Mechagodzilla that exist.
I also wanted to ask some general questions, like, what do you two like to see in a mech? Like, what really makes you excited when you see a mech, or read about a mech, or experience a mech through TTRPG? What gets your little gears going, if you know what I mean?
The little mech gears.
Machine gears, not... that sounded
You can
bad.
stop talking at any time, my dear.
Okay.
I feel like I've been, like, going first a lot, so, Mac, if you've got thoughts immediately, feel free.
I mean, I'm very much a cool robot girly. I mean, we all saw Pacific Rim.
Yep.
We all saw the chainsaw sword. Like, that shit rules. I like a good design. I like a bad design too. I like a design that I think is good. Let me put it that way. I also, like I said before about how Random Access Histories kind of fucked with my perception of what a mech is. I like a mech that is like semi-sentient to sentient. I think that's fun and cool. That's not a requirement for me enjoying a mech thing. But it is a thing that I tend to gravitate towards, especially when I make mech characters. I mean, it's pretty obvious from the Random Access Histories game that I played, but that is kind of a thing that I gravitate towards, is like, what measure of consciousness does the giant war machine have? What does it know about what it's doing?
Yeah.
Does it know anything about what it's doing? It doesn't have to, but if it does, what does it think about that?
Yeah, let's use that as a jumping off point. So mechs with a personality, mechs with an AI, mechs with a soul. Like, it's something that this game really explores deeply, which is that a mech, in some way, and the game is very, like, you don't have to go by the definition of, hey, the Gundam suddenly has a personality and is talking to you. You can have it in many different ways, but do you feel like, does it enrich it, or is it a requirement for you guys that it has to have its own personality? Can a mech just be a machine in your eyes? Or does it inherently have a soul by having a pilot that puts energy into it?
Oh, well, that's a different question for me. That's a different question. A mech can be a machine, but I think that I think that you can justify that any object inherently has a memory imprint, regardless of whether or not it has a computer in it, of its quote-unquote pilot, right? Like, a car, especially if you, the pilot or the driver or whatever, anthropomorphize or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Anthropomorphize, I think, is specifically about animals. But if you put, the minute that you name a car, that car has a personality.
Yeah, that's actually true.
So I think that regardless of whether or not that turns into, like, consciousness or soul or however the fuck you want to define a soul, like, you leave there is a memory imprint on that machine regardless. It can still just be a machine. It doesn't have to be sentient, it doesn't have to think or whatever, or however you want to define sentience. But it does carry a little piece of its pilot or driver or whatever with it, regardless of that.
I love that type of energy.
A Zaku is just a Zaku until it has that pilot who cares about it. After every sortie, it gains from that, right? I always use the Zaku as the default.
Yeah, I love that energy. It makes me think of stone tape theory, about hauntings, like the idea that objects can become impressed with emotional impressions. It's like, I love the idea of applying that to sci-fi and to mech. August, what interests you about mechs, and what is your okay, and please go on the record with your official stance on souls in mechs.
Yeah. Keep it to a tight 30 minutes, if you could, on what a soul is.
We're not friends at the table. We can't get into the philosophy of this.
I know. I haven't read enough.
So I dropped in the notes, one of my main feelings about mechs is, what if the external manifestation of your ideal self could love you?
Oh, yeah.
Which is a big reason of why I love Random Access Histories. But, what appeals to me about mechs is, I like mechs with, a neural connection. And I especially like mechs with a neural connection with something that has, a more formed sentient consciousness, because part of the fantasy of Random Access Histories for me is, what if you found somebody who could see, parts of you that you don't necessarily show to anyone else, but could still, sync with you anyway. It's the fantasy of drift compatibility, too. And, I firmly point the finger of this at Evangelion.
Yeah.
Just, quasi-mech, is Evangelion's mechs?
I think Evangelions for me are formative in my love and appreciation for meat mechs. So I would say but specifically subtype meat mech.
It's formative for my opinion on mom mechs. So I get that.
The other more niche subgenre of mech, mom mechs.
MILF mechs.
Legally, I can't condone this.
Yes.
Eva Unit 1 is definitely a MILF.
Yeah.
Forum locked after 12,000 pages of a heated debate.
Smash. Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to go over that just so we can know, wherever. Brian, what about you? Souls in Effect?
We know where I stand on this. We don't have to litigate this again.
100%.
It's on the record. We recommend anyone listening to this podcast who isn't aware listen to the entire rest of the podcast, which is what I assume that y'all do. If you're like, hey, if you're behind on our story arcs and some of our recurring characters, just go ahead and listen to my entire podcast. I assume that's the play.
So let's go over Random Access Histories. We're kind of going to just go over this. Again, it is 12 pages. It is not much. So we're just going to kind of touch on the general flow of the game, the general structure, and what players can expect when they're playing Random Access History. So we're going to use the phrase co-pilots a lot. What's a co-pilot, Niko?
Well, I love that in this game, it specifically states that a co-pilot is not just like Pacific Rim style, another human in the mech with you. Your co-pilot is your mech. And I really like that they emphasize that, the co-pilot situation is the human pilot and the mech. I agree with MK completely, because it's just, I love whenever a mech has its own personality. So I love, right out the gate, they're like, hey, you are equal partners in this. You are different types of being, but you are co-pilots.
So, we get a general overview of the game, the objectives and the goals. It's your general standard, hey, we're here to tell a story. Here's what you need. Something I do want to shout out is the communication and self-care.
Yeah.
In a GM-less game, there's not somebody moderating the table actively. So veils and lines are a collaborative effort. We have to establish different language, tone, subject matter between you and your co-pilot, so the person that you're playing with.
And one of the things I love that y'all do on Follow the Leader is, at the beginning of every episode, you lay out your lines and your veils, things that you're not going to discuss and things that you're okay touching on, but then, moving on from. I do think, I think this has been kind of a modern development in TTRPGs. Since kind of the TTRPG renaissance, there's been a lot more awareness of, this isn't just an activity for, I guess the cliche is, maladjusted people in a basement, though I think that still holds true. I'm definitely maladjusted. But, like, I think there used to be an idea that, like, no one needed safety, and I'm pretty sure there are probably people now who are grown adults, maybe close to retirement age, who are like, hey, I kind of wish we had an X card when I was playing D&D in the 70s, you know? But I do like that safety tools are becoming more prevalent and that y'all emphasize that on Follow the Leader, especially because, yeah, like, when you're having a conversation, even if it's not a TTRPG kind of conversation, I think everyone's had the experience of like, oops, I didn't mean to get onto this subject, or oops, I've entered a fraught territory, and it's nice to actually have like built-in release valves. And this has them in the form, like one of the earliest pages in the game.
Yeah, I that's what I was going to say is I really like how this one has a built-in one because that kind of discussion has become really prevalent in the RPG space. But a lot of the time, like especially with our group, like we found a random same page like survey that talks about the stuff that we all fill out before the start of every game. That's totally independent from the system that we're playing. But this one is literally like, no, like I'm gonna say this up front. Like you need to sit down and talk about, especially because it's such an intimate sort of like type of content generation. It needs to have something built into it. And I like this one a lot. I just like the terms it uses.
Yeah, and especially with mecha, tone is important because you can have such wildly different tones in mecha. We all saw Pacific Rim Uprising, a real movie in which no one dies.
A movie that contains so many different tones that I keep coming back to that one kid who got toasted randomly. Anyway.
And we've also, a lot of us have seen Eva, which, if you want to talk about whiplash and tone, boy howdy.
Yeah.
Boy howdy.
But yeah, I do like this just to touch on like the DM being the moderator. Like, I do think there are situations where the DM as moderator can fall down.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been in games where it's like the DM moderator doesn't step up in the way that GM-less games require everyone at the table to step up. So I think that's really cool. I definitely recommend people trying it.
Or is actively the problem in that vein of problems that can happen at the table.
Yep.
So
I do love safety tools. I was at a mega game earlier this year.
Brag.
For context, I live in the Midwest of America, so, you know, not exactly the most progressive place ever. Why? Yeah, me and my corn. Oh, the Midwest. Oh, you know. And each packet had an X card, and it was, like, most of us knew, but it was still explained to everybody what that meant. And it was just very funny seeing these people who have never played TTRPGs before. This was their first event, and they're getting an X card and what that means. And I don't know. It's a cool change. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what also doesn't change? War. The war never changes.
Dang.
The Random Access Histories is about a war. This is my favorite line in the entire book. As a team, you play your side's best hope in a conflict against an overwhelming enemy. That's the concept. Love it. I love being the best hope. It's such a good feeling.
Well, and I think it's a really efficient machine because one of my favorite tropes is the kind of intimacy or familiarity that is bred out of crisis or like this dire, like move or die circumstance. Like people who would, you know, just putting the mech stuff aside, people who would never have given each other the time of day otherwise are now going to be, you know, lifelong in contact because of something that happened where that they both had to deal with and cooperate to survive.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the mainline Follow the Leader episodes with Random Access Histories, where August, you played Marnie, and then Danielle from the room where it happened played Kiki, the mech. Y'all decided early on that you wanted Kiki to be a really seasoned mech, and for Marnie to literally be a clone, like straight up, wet behind the ears, super neophyte, and that created such a cool dynamic for y'all to be the best hope and to have to figure this out.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about playing Random Access Histories is like the breadth of variety that you can have when it comes to creating your team.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on the handful of adjectives that Rufus gives you.
Yeah. For those listening, basically the setup part of this is you're picking from a list of adjectives 3 times to describe the conflict, the pilot, and the mech. And it's like 30 adjectives. But they're such a good framework for so many different, unique, like either tropey or just totally different things you can explore.
Yeah. So you pick from the adjectives to create the conflict, the mech, and the pilot. And this is where you all have homework. Pick 3 adjectives to describe yourself. You can be a mech or you can be a pilot.
Oh no!
I did this in advance because I knew you were going to do this. Let's go.
We're going to circle back on these, so take your time as we talk through this, but you do need to give yourself 3 adjectives. You can be either a mech or a pilot. I am the existential threat you'll be fighting, but we'll circle back to this later, okay?
Alice is the existential threat of my life.
So you start by discussing with your co-pilot what has changed in this conflict that has put you into this. So what is the instigating event that you're suddenly playing this? And then you get out a deck of cards, right? So you go in turn playing scenes with each other. One player establishes the scene, naming the action they want to take. And then the other player plays a card to bloom a memory. Am I getting that right, guys?
Yeah,
Yes.
they have a hand and they play from it.
Nice. But hey, what is a bloom? Let's talk about it. This is the most important part of this game and my favorite part of the game. So I'm going to ask you all, what is blooming from you now?
Ooh.
I'm allowed to ask that. The rulebook says I can ask that at you
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
What is blooming from you? We'll start from the top. August, what is blooming from you now?
General happiness. Like, I'm deeply enjoying the discussion that we're having. I'm pretty jazzed. So, just generally pretty happy, pretty chill. Happy to be here.
Gonna immediately put up a memorial wall on that. Don't like feeling Brian, what about you? What is blooming from you now?
There is it's like cloudy in terms of again, similar to August, like I'm enjoying the discussion. This is a great record. Alice is harming me by making me vulnerable on air. So there's like a sharpness to that as well. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Not gonna put a wall there. Love your suffering. MK, what about you? What is blooming from you now?
I don't know, a little bit of the same, a little bit of the sharpness from being put on the spot immediately and being like, hey, what the fuck am I thinking about? I'm a little no thoughts head empty right now. So I've been staring at other men.
Well,
so
I mean,
I'm like,
you can put up your own memorial wall if you want to.
It's true.
that's true. But I think if you just kind of look, like the thing that if you like look in the direction of my bloom, it's just like, oh, next.
PNGs are just drifting through the ether.
That is the energy of this podcast. That is when we're operating at maximum like cooking capacity. That is the vibe for sure.
Niko, I'm gonna explain what a bloom is to you.
Okay,
The
thanks.
bloom is what allows an entangled pair to share memories, but it also allows you to share other things. The bloom can contain your feelings, your literal thought, or even bits of what you're sensing in the moment at any time, whether in it, blah, 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 blah. So what is the bloom? The bloom is that pixel that we talked
Hold
about,
on, I'm
right,
playing
earlier.
a card. I'm playing a card,
Okay.
and I am evoking the memory of the time that you called me, and I took your call on the toilet. And so when I think of when Alice puts me on the spot, I remember the sheer vulnerability of, yeah. MK just said, I thought this wasn't a TTRPG podcast. Yeah, Alice, what the hell? Anyway, I'm evoking that memory, and I hope it hurts you, because I have answered calls from you in the weirdest places.
So what card is this?
Oh, hell.
I need to know the
I gotta
severity
check
of
the
this memory.
suit. I think it's probably
I think it's hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a close and beloved memory, but it is also a memory of Alice just, like, jumping me in the night. Just attacking.
Just attacking you.
But I do like that as a demonstration of kind of, like, what these conversations can be like.
Mm-hmm.
I think another cool thing that GM-less games can do is be a fun and cool way to learn how to talk about and articulate your feelings.
Yes.
Not to be kind of therapy pilled on the podcast, but like legitimately, like as someone who sometimes struggles to articulate my feelings and often feels like I'm no thoughts head empty when I'm actually feeling something, and then I get surprised by that later. It has been really fun to play GM-less stuff and to be like, oh, I actually need to dig down, and even if it's not how I'm feeling right now, how is my character feeling, and, like, my position is going to inflect that. I think that builds a really useful skill, which I think is really cool.
sometimes I use GM-less games as therapy, and I go, I need to, like, think about this thing that I'm really afraid of right now, and I'm going to do that through a character in a GM-less game.
Yeah.
And hey, PSA, if you're going to do that, tell your other players that you're going to do that. Please, God. I always say, hey, I'm about to get into some existential bullshit. If you don't want me to do that, I won't, but like, this is kind of where I'm feeling. Don't just spring your crippling fear of death on other people. Just like
a general good rule
just
for
so you
conversation,
know.
but also for gaming.
Yeah.
The official stance of the OSG pod is that you should not, without warning, turn your TTRPG into group therapy. You should always signpost that as clearly as you can.
I wanted to talk about too, one of the things that this game, especially this mechanic in this game, highlights for us at OSG is something in the genre space that I think we have brushed shoulders with in the media that we've consumed, but haven't really actively indulged in. Like, it's happened to be the case that this hasn't really been around too much in the stuff that we've talked about, which is the relationship between a sentient mech and its pilot, or and the explicit like intimacy of the cockpit. Like, I am like hard pressed. I do not think we've had any fully sentient mechs on the show at all yet. And
we are being haunted by the specter of Titanfall, because I kept wanting to put it on the calendar and then kept trying to figure out how to make that happen. Right, but
August is gonna just fall over and die right now.
Yeah, exactly. But like that I think is one that a lot of people can point to as like, oh, this is a thinking mech, this is a feeling mech that a pilot has a relationship with, and it's like, it's in our opening jingle thing, it's in our opening music, I cut a piece of that in, but we haven't actually done it yet.
I need to finish Titanfall so bad. I haven't finished it
I've
yet.
never even played
and I'm
it.
like, I know that this is gonna kill me.
Yeah. Brian killed me with Titanfall, so yeah, he played the whole game while I was watching, and then the ending happened and I died.
A different Brian. This isn't Brian from our podcast. Did not show up at August's house and force them to play.
Brian,
I've never actually played Titanfall.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's too many Brians in the world.
Damn.
Yeah, this is Brian from the room where it happened.
Yep.
One of my dear friends who constantly exposes me to video games that give me emotional damage, including
this was the Metal Gear Solid, right?
Yeah,
I was gonna say this is Metal Gear Solid too.
Yeah, now see, this is something we have in common with the Brian who is subjecting us to Metal Gear Solid. It is the important niche that you serve.
But yeah, that's basically it. It was just like, I think that this is probably the most drilled down example of that we've had. Cursedly, I think the only other thing that gets close is Synduality.
Oh no!
But that's Synduality is about the only one that's closer.
But that's not the mech. That's a different individual who subsumes
the Magus
themselves.
Becomes an implanted.
Yeah.
Look,
Synduality,
get into it.
If August and MK haven't seen it, which I don't know that I can recommend it, but it is interesting because it has like unfortunately a waifu, but a waifu who is like a interface mechanic. And so it does have an interesting sort of mech dynamic in that way, that you have like a robot wife who helps you interface with your mech, and you drive worse if you don't have one.
I think MK would like how fucked up those mechs look, though. That seems like it's up MK's design alley.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a challenging episode in terms of, like, I really love the design of those mechs, and that show is dog shit.
I love the design of John Gasmaker, which is a real name of a real mech.
Love that.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, no, like you said, Brian, I think next year we plan to get into a few more things that kind of talk about like what role a sentient mech might play, such as the pivotal, groundbreaking Criterion Collection Bang Brave, Bang Bravern. We are going to be looking at that coming up fairly soon. Which is definitely in this genre that I'm very excited for, so.
Yeah.
Yuri.
I need to watch that so badly.
No, that one's Yaoi. Let me have one.
No, it's Yaoi, but the lead character designer only draws Yuri, and all of the female characters in the background are smacking lips. God damn it.
The specter of Yuri haunting us.
Is haunting me forever. So, you have the Bloom, which is a way to have that connection between mecha and pilot, you know, flashes of memory that'll get you through the fight or make you fail in the fight. You know your new type, and this causes sync or desync. So the main how do we get to a conclusion of this game is, are you further synced with your unit, your co-pilot, or do you suffer from a desync with your co-pilot? There's also memorial walls, which are ways for you to be like, nah, I don't want to talk about that memory, which is what my therapist says I should stop building. But
You can't keep playing that every turn, Alice.
making my therapist play a GM-less game with me so I can work through it.
Oh, no, but one thing I do like about this, so sync and desync, those are represented by index cards, and you lay the cards that you've played on there, or in the case of something like a memorial wall, you make a tally mark. And then later, towards the end of the game, as you draw to a conclusion, you start adding up values on both sides. But I like that this game specifically complicates the idea that sync is always good.
Yes.
And desync is always bad. I really like that because I do think I'm struggling to come up with a specific example, but I do think that there are times where excellence in piloting can be a more violent and painful situation for co-pilots to be in, for a mech and a pilot to be in, than if they simply could not cooperate or could not operate at maximum efficiency. Unfortunately, and I'm looking directly at Alice as I say this, all I can think of is the Lambda drive from Full Metal Panic. And, like, he has to go full angst mode to activate the Lambda drive, which I feel like is just, like, not good for him as a person, for Sosuke as a person.
I mean...
And I think that's an example
Sosuke
of sync
deserves it.
being bad.
Well,
We can't keep talking about Full Metal Panic. We can't.
We can't do it.
So at the end of the game, you tally up your points and decide what a sync or a desync looks like. It's very, again, created by you.
Yeah, I just want to bring up that it's like, I do like that the use of a deck of cards isn't arbitrary. The face values of the cards, the value of an ace,
Yeah.
those actually are part of your calculation at the end, and they're also supposed to prompt you, in the rules, it prompts you to talk about, like, how much a memory affects you and how strong a memory is based on the face value of the card. So I like how that dovetails, because sometimes tools like dice or cards are brought in purely to randomize things, but I do like that the specific way that a deck of cards functions is integral to not just playing the game, but also, like, determining how you end the game.
Yeah.
And I guess I would throw that over to August and MK, like, having now played this a few times. I love that you mentioned in the mainline episode that it's like, you know, you've played this on live streams, like, as many times as you could, and then you were so thrilled to get it in a mainline episode, and then MK, of course, played it on the Standing Stone stream. What have your experiences been like ending a game? Because I think that's something actually a lot of people in the TTRPG space actually don't have a lot of experience with. A lot of campaigns and a lot of fun times just kind of end abruptly, and I like that this game has a conclusion built in.
I think that the game does a good job of, like, giving you some guide rails to work towards a conclusion. I've always found ending the game to be kind of bittersweet, not just because, you know, I love playing it, but because, like, you know, with the way that the ending mechanics work, where you tally up the sync and desync, sometimes it's really obvious whether you're going to be synced or desynced, and sometimes it's like, you know, it may come as a surprise because, like, all of the you may have more sync memories, but they're all, like, low value memories versus having a couple of high value desync memories. And, you know, coming up with ways to express that. And also, usually what happens when I play is we play until we reach, like, a turning point in the war, more often than not. So it's, you know, it's not necessarily we end the war, but, you know, we come around a corner and we're both substantially changed by it. And, you know, anytime you enter, you know, substantial change in, you know, with the character, that can be bittersweet too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes finding a good ending point for a game is something that you stumble on and not something that you prescribe, which I think is really, it's something that's really good about GM-less games on the whole, is that, like, you just find yourself and you're like, oh, no, this is where we're going to end the game, because, like, we don't need to go any further than this, and it might actually serve as a disservice to go further than this. And having a way to then be like, all right, well, we've hit the ending of the game, and let's put a button on it with the ending mechanic is something that's really good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of you guys having experience on this, Although I should probably say what the last mechanic, which is you do an epilogue with some card turns, which just gives you a nice way to put a bow on what you've done and really wrap it up.
Yep.
But hey, you two have played this before. Specifically, we want to talk about one you did during a 24-hour charity live stream for the Standing Stones group.
When you were at your most vulnerable, sleep deprived.
So this was deep in the early of the morning. And this was to support, and I want to shout it out, Mermaids in the UK, which is a charity group that helps trans youth and children. They're still around, and people should still donate to them.
Perhaps now more than ever.
One of the things that's mentioned during that charity live stream is that journalistically, socially, and physically sometimes things are really hard for trans people in the UK right now specifically, and that has not changed. So you should check out Mermaid and go donate.
A timeless message, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah, that was a 5 o'clock in the morning block for me.
Yep.
Oh!
Yeah.
And I had to run a Beam Saber one-shot at 11 at night, which ended at 2 in the morning, which was a Beam Saber Battle of the Bands one-shot.
Oh, wow.
That's so awesome.
Where I was losing my mind with laughter. So I went to sleep at 2 in the morning. I was not supposed to do this slot, by the way.
I feel like that's a classic streaming situation.
It was like a week before the person who Jade was supposed to partner with was like, actually, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I was like, I'll jump in. I have characters ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
I'm young. I can do 3 hours of sleep and do another game. So I'm like very obviously have just woken up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hi, I'm very tired, but I'm here. I'm ready to go.
Let's talk about your special little guy, your little character that you played, because something that you were very upfront with when you were going over the setup of this game is that this is a character that you came already crafted to this game with, and one that meant a lot to you.
Yeah.
Tell us about them, and more specifically, because we're a mecha podcast, tell us about that mech.
I have to issue, Jade's not here to accept it, so I have to issue it to MK. The first and only Best Cockpit Hug Ever award issued by OSG.
Let's hear it.
It's like the Hyakushiki, except you're the only person who's like gonna get it.
So this was the characters that we play. Jade very kindly was like, yes, I will play this mech character that you have made and breathe such life into them as I could have hoped for. The really nice thing about Follow the Leader is that because we've all been playing together for so long, generally speaking, I'll be like, hey, do you want to play my character for me so that I'm not talking to myself in a scene? And I will pretty much trust anyone on that podcast with one of my guys. And the benefit was that, so the mech, the pilot and the mech, Veracity, Sundown, and Radiant 9. Thank you, Twilight Mirage name generator.
Banger names, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you. These characters were created before Rearguard came out. Which I say because I had created them for a Beam Saber campaign that I never played in.
Yeah.
But I played but I made the characters before Rufus and Caro wrote The Surgeon. And now that Rearguard is out, I'm like, okay, I need to retrofit this character for the Surgeon playbook. So I picked up the pilot, who's an XP of Cassandra Timaeus Berenice. That I'll admit. That's fine. I'll admit that. And their mech, who Jade brought to such a beautiful life, even if I can't really remember it because it was 5 o'clock in the morning.
I can.
Alice can.
I really loved Jade specifically brought such an energy to Radiant 9. One of the things that you two did in this that I really appreciated was Radiant 9 didn't talk to Veracity. Radiant 9 sent feelings and thoughts and visuals. And I mean, there's a moment, and I really do think people should listen to it, that there's a payoff to that. But the way that, a mech and a pilot can interact with each other, you think of the like me talking to the AI in my cockpit kind of vibe, right? You don't think of it as like a physical, emotional connection. And in this entire episode you did for the charity stream, it was, I'm gonna level with you, I forgot what the conflict was because I was more invested in what these two were going through.
Yeah.
And the stories and the memories that they had. And there's a specific moment where you pull a memorial wall on Radiant 9, and it's this really, I don't want to say a tone shift, but it really changes like the dynamic between the two co-pilots in it, where you can kind of see where it's going towards the end. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it, but I love bringing a pre-created character and then just letting them just go hog wild. And I really enjoyed it. Anything else you two wanted to talk about from listening to this episode, Niko and Brian?
I just thought that it was a really good dovetail, and it just kind of happened to work out this way because the characters were already made. Just that Radiant speaks in the way that the game works, which was good, which was, I think, really useful strategically, because you could have scenes with Radiant that were memories or were feelings, but weren't the card that was played, which I thought was generative for a lot of interesting scenes.
Yeah.
Well, I've said before that Random Access Histories influencing the way that I think about mechs means that a lot of the way that Radiant 9 kind of thinks and operates is very Bloom-like, to a point where sometimes I go, okay, you have to make a mech that doesn't have a bloom.
Yeah.
You have to make a mech that is a forklift.
Like, you can't do this every single time. And then I make another mech who has a bloom, and it just keeps happening.
I think one thing that's interesting having these characters pre-made is that they already had a certain congruity, and then like they grew apart as you introduced the variable of another person, like playing the mech. And so, you know, they could start from the same place, but they were always going to have an arc because of this element of including another person. And like, I don't know. I mean, this is why it's like, I like to write short stories. I like to write fiction, but I also love TTRPGs because sometimes you just want to be like, hey, I had this really cool idea, and see what your friends do with it, because you like them and want to spend a lot of time with them, and they have really cool ideas.
Yeah, very much. I love to take an idea that I have and throw it in front of my friends and say, break this.
Yeah, I love that. In the mainline episodes, moving it back over to August, I think y'all played kind of almost a more traditional game in the sense of that, like, on the spot, y'all both made the co-pilots together, you made the conflict together, and you started from an interesting place that allowed you, I think, to tap some of your feelings, which is having them be so different. And
I think we should also call out where these mainline episodes were.
So these episodes, so the mainline episodes where Follow the Leader plays Random Access Histories are episode 65.1, Old Sport, which cracked me up so bad I lost my mind. We are all haunted by The Great Gatsby in our own ways.
Truly.
And episode 65.2.
Links for these will be on the web zone.
Yeah, they will be on the web zone. 65.2 is Angelic Combat, which makes sense because y'all fought Angel. I love that one of the themes of Follow the Leader is Let's Kill God.
Yeah.
It's a recurring and important theme.
Attack and dethrone God. Let's do it.
August and I handshake meme both Jewish.
Yeah. you're
I'm
like,
not Jewish yet, but I'm working on it.
August, you count. August, you count.
Intent counts.
The convert feeling. But
the convert feeling.
Yeah. So August, as far as like a more typical setup, like, I know that you had played it before, so you had more experience with it. You weren't coming into it totally not knowing what to expect. But like, what is that like when you're just like, okay, I want to play this game again and I found someone who's willing. Let's get into it. Let's make these characters.
I think I said before, you know, the adjectives that Rufus sets out are all really evocative. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to either look at those adjectives and pull three interesting ones and have that paint in, you know, broad strokes an interesting character. But Kiki and Marnie both existed before and existed together. So it was interesting to take those two characters and see how their relationship changed based on the setting that we were throwing them in now.
Yeah, I love that that's something y'all do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bring back characters and you kind of reinterpret them through the games, which is really cool and really fun. It also makes it really easy to jump in. Once you've met the characters once, you can meet them many different ways, but you will be meeting kind of similar characters throughout the show.
Now with a seasoned mech, is this where you like don't really scrub it
Oh
when
my
you
God.
clean it so that it tastes better when you cook with it again?
Now I'm haunted and bedeviled by the idea of a cast iron mech. Just the
I was
amount
just
of that
thinking that
vegetable
too.
oil.
That's like the Appalachian mech experience, cast iron mech.
You go into the mech junkyard and it's all covered in rust, but you're like, listen, all I have to do is get some steel wool and some oil and we'll be back in business.
This mech runs on shine. We in them
Yes.
Appalachian mech.
Yes. Oh man.
Tell us more about Marnie and Kiki. I really want to know about their relationship, where it's come from, and what these 2 episodes mean to you.
Yeah, so Kiki is a character that Danielle has played before, both for like Follow the Leader / Standing Stones adjacent things, and also is currently playing her in The Room Where It Happened. Shout out to our sister podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, Kiki is always linked to, like, I don't want to say animalistic stuff, but, Kiki was conceived of as a werewolf originally. So, like, having that sort of bend to her character, like a protective sort of aura about her. I love her to pieces. And, Marnie kind of being somebody that she has to take under her wing. In the original episodes that we played together, gosh, it has been a really long time. There was almost a big sister, little sister energy almost, although not quite. Because I think I was trying to play Marnie as having a crush on Kiki in that particular setting. So, but yeah, these characters and their relationship mean a lot to me. I deeply enjoyed their interactions, and I liked seeing where having that, because in the original episodes they were in together, They already had a pre-existing history, being squad mates and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But having them come in fresh-faced to each other was something that I really enjoyed playing out, especially given the fact that in those episodes, Kiki had a different pilot before Marnie. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that, basically all the pilots that Kiki's had were clones of the same person. So, it wasn't that, they were all clones. So it's like Marnie looked exactly like the previous pilots, that kind of thing, just because sometimes it's fun to play around with the idea of identity when you look exactly like all the other people in your bunk.
Yeah. And I mean, it was really meta. Of course, again, because, this is a character that you've played in different contexts before. So it was literally like taking a similar appearance, but a different shade of that character, which I really enjoyed. But you've said that Random Access Histories is one of your favorite games. What is it that you like about the play in particular that you really feel makes this game special?
I believe that the cards that you have in your hand are called your memory bank. Mm-hmm. And that mechanic specifically having, because having to either choose to play one of those memories or put up a memorial wall is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Having to look at the card and look at the suit and be like, okay, what kind of memory would fit this? Because you can have a preconception of what your character is, but then you get played like a King of Hearts, and it's like, okay, my character's a loner, so how would I have a, deep-rooted memory related to a person that would be relevant to the situation that we're in, that it would bubble up in this situation? So it really puts you on the spot to try to come up with an interesting dynamic for the situation.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, sometimes games use decks and dice for a randomization element. I do like you said, it's like you have the memory bank. It almost allows for like strategic play, because you can decide, you're like, oh, this is an interesting scene, and I've just had this really cool idea. And then you can choose the card from your hand that would suit, not to make a pun, but that would suit kind of like what your idea is, but also just like if you're wanting to kind of hit a pivot point in the story, you can literally choose when that happens because you have those options. Mm-hmm. As opposed to something like, for the Descended from the Queen game, where it is really just about like drawing from a deck as like a randomization tool, and you never know when you're going to get hit with one of those like high value cards, which is fun in its own way. But I do like that kind of strategy element in Random Access Histories.
Yeah, and you can do it for not PvP play per se, but you can hold on to that ace until there's a moment where your characters don't need any distractions, and then boom, all of a sudden a core memory pops up and throws everything into disarray.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's PvP play. That's intentionally waiting to deal psychic damage to your other player. And it is one of the most fun things that you can do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Jade does that to me like every time we play a game, and it's great.
Jade's really good at dealing psychic damage for as kind and unassuming as they can often seem to be.
It's always the quiet ones. You gotta watch out.
Yep.
Well, we've discussed a lot of random access and histories, but
Wow.
do any of you have any final thoughts on RAH, the TTRPG?
Yes, I want to say that this is not something that you necessarily have to be face-to-face for. I have a lot of the random access histories I've played has been played by post. So you can have like a playingcards.io room or a Roll20 room with a deck of cards that you can use to have your memory bank. And then you can do, take turns playing by post, setting up the scene, and then just, kind of, old school forum role play until you're ready to play a memory, and then you can stop and you can play your memory and, set things up from there. And it works really well. And, obviously it works well over Discord or that kind of thing. But, being with somebody is an entirely different experience too, because it is such an intimate kind of game.
Yeah.
But, you can play it anywhere with anyone.
Awesome.
Any other final thoughts?
I guess we gotta play Random Access Histories again at some point.
We do.
I know that we just put an Anomaly game on the calendar, but like, damn.
That is the curse of talking about a game. You're like, damn, I could really go for that game right now.
I could really go for that game right now.
Well, generally, at this point in the episode, we would rate those goddamn mechs, but we've only talked about a couple, and I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10, but most like our Armor Austere episode, we can't rank this. This is a game. You have to play it. Play the game. It's a good game.
Play the game and then rank the mech that you played as after.
Yeah.
Let us know.
You have to go out there and try to get that 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Or a 2 out of 10, but in a fun way.
But in a fun way.
Hey, we've seen some jank-ass mechs on this podcast, and they're fun.
Well, with that, we are going to head to a break. We're going to resync and come back and play a game. So let's head to the break.
Hey guys, Alice here. Thanks for listening to On the Shoulders of Giants. We're really happy you're here, but if you know anybody who might be interested, we'd love if you share our work with them. If you are enjoying what we're doing, maybe send us a message, or what would really help us out is if you leave a review online. Really, a lot of the algorithms will push people down if they don't have reviews, so it really helps if you just go and write something on the internet. Heck, we might even read one on the podcast if it's really nice and makes our hearts go doki doki. So if you could do that, maybe do it, and thanks again for listening. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back from the break. Hello.
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 Hi.
Astute listeners and those on this podcast may recall mere hours ago when I asked you to pick 3 adjectives.
Oh shit, I forgot.
Fuck. Shit.
Oh, do you need another minute? Oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
Don't start with me. I can figure it out.
So, let's go around the room. Brian, are you a mech or a pilot?
I want to be a mech.
What are your adjectives as a mech?
My adjectives are otherworldly, massive, and anomalous, and I have anomalous starred.
Nice.
And if you could throw that in the chat just for
sure.
I'm not taking notes as well as hosting, that would be too much for me. Why did you choose those?
I just feel like they're in my wheelhouse for, like, if there are any listeners who have listened to, like, most of our episodes, I just feel like those are things that tend to draw me in on mechs that I really like. I like the idea of something alien but still constructed. I like big. And then I also like it when something is like science fictionally anomalous. Like when I read anomalous, I think like physics breaking, that kind of thing. So that's just kind of why I was immediately drawn to those. And like, it was weird. I had like That's lock on. Like those were the three things that were glowing off of the screen to me. I saw them immediately. I was like, let's go.
This so reads like the Kron Macula from Heaven Will Be Mine, which I code so much as a U mecha.
Yeah.
Very, very real. August, what about you? Are you a mech or a pilot?
I would like to be a pilot.
And what would your adjectives be as a pilot?
Unassuming, inhuman, and steadfast, which is starred.
Now, why did you go with those? Why do those speak to you as a pilot?
Well, I'm going to engage in a lot of character bleed here. This character is based off myself. I feel like I am unassuming. I am very loyal, which I translated to steadfast, and my whole brand is harpies, so inhuman.
Nice.
I love that. Niko.
Okay.
What about you? Are you a mech or a pilot?
I will be a pilot for once. I know. Everyone was like, Niko's going to be a mech. No. So I'm going to be a pilot.
What are your adjectives?
I also had unassuming, but I had storied and wicked is starred. Because, yeah, if we're talking about bleed, I think, as my friends know, we went on vacation and I was doing little crimes right and left. And I like the idea of a pilot who's just like, oh, they've done a bunch of shit and a lot of people know about the shit that they've done. But if they ran into them on the street, it's like a Tony Hawk situation. It's like, damn, you remind me of Tony Hawk. I wonder what he's doing right now. And you're just like, damn, who could say?
I just want to say that what Niko meant was just small acts of minor larceny all the time. But what I immediately thought of was the wine glass full of milk.
Anyway. At one point I wanted some milk and I put it in a wine glass and we ended up having pictures of that incident from like 4 different angles.
Imagine a mech just lifting something though. That'd be great. Like you just leave it in the hangar and you just pick up like an extra carton of ammo or something, slip it in your like
you just pick
your
up
backpack.
A Jeep and walk away and they're just like, hey, you can't take that.
MK, are you a pilot or a mech?
I am a mech. The adjectives that I have picked are resonating, storied, which is starred, and learning.
Ooh. Now, why did you go with those for your mech?
It's a combination of, I feel like, being a storyteller, so having the story already kind of, I don't want to say built in, but kind of built in, but also like still kind of growing and learning along with that. So, I am storied, but there's still more stories to tell.
Now, this is great. This worked out pretty good for me in that we have 2 mechs and we have 2 pilots, and much like the many other times we have had people on here, the one time I'm splitting you up. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, okay.
So, August, you will be piloting my friend Brian.
Okay.
And Niko, you'll be piloting my friend MK.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Brian, do you have a hat large enough for me to hide under?
Brian is in a closet right now.
I have this Stardew Valley hat. Is that anything?
Is that anything?
Damn, Ratatouille is mess.
Once again, clowning on that one person on Twitter.
Now, what are we going to do with this? I've siloed you off into your co-pilot teams, of which you're going to figure out names eventually. There's other creative writing prompts in here, but the real answer is I just used this to create games. I wanted to see what you came up with. So these are your teams. We're playing a completely different game that has nothing to do with this, but you're on teams. So forget all of these adjectives, okay? The game we're playing, really proud of this name, is what if Cosmos wasn't hosted by Carl Sagan, but was hosted by Char Aznavour?
I saw this in the outline and died laughing.
Again, okay, one of my favorite running themes throughout OSG is that I have never met this man. I know only of his presence through the echoes of Alice.
So, my first meeting with Char Aznavour was on the Interstitial Podcast Season 3. Char Aznavour in between Zeta Gundam and Char's Counterattack, as played by my friend Blake. And then I watched Gundam 79.
So, Yeah, I'm excited to not learn anything more useful this time. Alice may not recover from that.
I just want to say I'm not very familiar with Char Aznavour, but I'm very familiar with Quattro Bagina because the only UC Gundam I've actually watched all the way through is Zeta Gundam.
I don't know how those are related.
Aznavours to pick between.
Look.
Yeah, no, that's the right one. That's the right one to choose.
Everybody listen to Interstitial Proximity. It's so fucking good.
So, Niko is our resident Gundam expert, but what do you two know about the Gundam series?
Like most people of my age, I saw a lot of Gundam Wing on Toonami.
Yeah.
And we will eventually pick Gay Space Rocks back up and finish out G-Witch.
Yes!
I'm currently like 4 episodes from the end of season 1, but I'm loving it. I love Utena in space.
I'm normal about Witch from Mercury. MK, what do you know about the Gundam franchise?
Eventually I'll get to Zeta, I promise.
As we've discussed many times, there's too many Gundam podcasts, but we're going to be one for a brief moment. So, what is this game? Like many of the games that I bring to this table, this is a pick one answer you can steal. So, I will go between both groups. I will read to you 3 quotes. Now, these quotes, and if you've ever seen Gundam, you know that a new type, when they connect to their mobile suit, they drop a line. We don't do any of that, feelings and emotions. We have to talk about big, cool robot, how I make it go good. But some people in Gundam are evil?
What?
Some might say that Char Aznavour is a bad guy for what he did. But we're not going to get into the deep lore and the what really is good in the Gundam universe. I'm going to read you 3 quotes. You are going to tell me which one is spoken by the evil character in that franchise. Don't worry, I'll tell you who it is, because I don't think that you guys have ever seen Gundam Seed.
Isn't that the one you specifically said we shouldn't watch?
No one should watch Gundam Seed. That is the official stance of OSG. So I will go one group. I will read the quotes. You will pick it. If you don't get it, the other team has a chance to steal. And that's the basic premise. We're going to just discuss how you connect to your mech. Pretty simple rules. Any questions?
Do we have to be in agreement? Yes? We have to sync on our answer?
If you and your pilot desync, you do have to leave this call immediately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I could leave early. Nice. I'm kidding.
Damn.
Oh, no, you don't get to leave.
That's true. We're locked in here with her.
Here. All right. So I did a flip of the coin, and by that I mean I rolled a dice on my desk. August and Brian, you're going first. So this is from Gundam 79. Kind of lowballing you to get you in, something some of you have seen before. The evil person in this is Char Aznavour. Quote 1. You have all fought splendidly. Now witness the fate that belies all true warriors. Quote 2. No one likes to admit to the mistakes caused by their youth. Quote 3. Victory is the greatest tribute we can pay those who have sacrificed their lives for us. Which of those was spoken by Char Aznavour?
I have no fucking clue, but I really love quote 1. I think it's great. I hope it's real. But if you actually know, then by all means.
I don't know, and the thing to me is that these all kind of sound like something Char would say, so this is kind of difficult, but I do agree I like 1 the best, so I think that's the one we should go with.
Unfortunately, that was spoken by Ram Baral. So, we go to our other group. You have a chance to steal which of the remaining 2 quotes is by Char Aznavour.
I don't know this man, as we've covered many times. I don't know him. But I always think about how much youth is dwelt upon in anime, so I am kind of partial to the second one. But MK, you've actually seen Gundam 79, so do you have an educated opinion?
The thing is that the second one does sound like all of these. The first one less so sounds like something that Char would say. 2 and 3 do sound like something he would say, and I do think that the second one is something that he did say.
Are we gonna agree on that one then?
I think we can agree on that one.
Okay, we're synced. We're going with quote 2.
Ding, ding, ding. That is a Char Aznavour quote. One of his more famous ones. Mistakes caused by their youth. Good job.
I
That's
don't know
1 point
why
on the board.
protagonists in anime be thinking about their youth.
Well, Gundam is very much about adults versus children, too. So
That's true.
So true, so true. All right. That brings us back to you guys, MK and Niko. This one is from Gundam Seed, the series that no one should ever watch ever. Quote number 1. If you just did nothing because you thought it wouldn't help, then you'd end up doing less than nothing, for nothing would change and nothing would end. Quote 2. It's a shame. I did enjoy listening to your songs, but the real world isn't as kind as the one in pop songs. Quote 3. He's a fool. He insisted that he's not a soldier, yet he's still in that thing. He's just being used. Something about his friends, he says. Now, the villain in Seed is Ra La Crusette, named after the La Crusette ceramic brand.
I love Gundam names. They're all ridiculous.
Which of these 3 quotes, oh damn, this parsing's not good, but you can figure it out, is by Rao Crusette?
Well, I assume MK, you're as clueless as I am about Gundam Seed. I think number 2 is the funniest one, which is always kind of my instinct whenever I do these games.
yeah.
I would agree. I'm with you on that one. I think that saying number 2 is very funny.
Ding, ding, ding. It is quote 2.
Yes! Woo! Anime sucks.
If you ever want to look up the goofiest looking Char Aznable variant, it's La Crusette. His hair is fucking everywhere.
And well,
and
now I
it's
have to fucking see it.
All right, back to August and Brian. This is from a fan favorite, G Gundam, or Gundam G Fighter. Quote number 1. I feel so faint. My body only exists as long as he is alive. Is this the end? No, it's not over yet. Body of mine, it's the only way. Quote 2. Well, what's wrong? To kneel is to give up the fight. Get up! Rise! Show you can still rise! Quote 3.
That was said by Big Boss.
This hand of mine glows with an awesome power. Its burning grip tells me to defeat you. Take this, my love, my anger, and all of my sorrow. Shining Finger Sword!
Okay, so I've heard of Shining Finger,
Yeah.
so I feel like
It's
that's
3. It's 100% 3. That's the guy's move from G Gundam.
To be clear, you're identifying the villain's line, so
Oh.
this will be from Master Asia.
Oh.
What? Okay, hold on. Master Asia?
Let's talk about G Gundam and how problematic it is. The villain in G Gundam is a man who teaches kung fu named Master Asia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Each nation in G Gundam has a Gundam, and the Mexico one is called the Tequila Gundam, and it has a sombrero. So it's...
Oh god, that's right. That's what the...
Yeah, it's
And
a
the
thing.
Dutch, it's so good. So which of these is from Master Asia?
Okay, hold on. Okay, my vibe is, and I don't know this for sure, I am pretty sure Alice just spoiled that Master Asia is the villain, because I'm pretty sure he starts the show being like a mentor figure, and I feel like I could see number 2 happening from him.
That's fair. Like
Yeah.
I said, I'm completely clueless. I just know Shining Finger exists.
Yeah.
So I have heard that before, but yeah, I don't think that was from Master Asia.
No.
So
We gotta stop saying
Every time you
Master
say his
Asia.
name, I just take psychic damage. This is like -1, -1, -1.
yep.
Locked in? Have you synced on this answer?
Yeah. Let's go number 2.
That is correct. That is spoken by Master Asia, as Domon can't defeat him. Domon being the main character who has the shining, burning finger. Ladies.
I've said that quote to myself, but it was specifically about like joining a Teams call. So I don't know, like who suffered more, me or Master Asia?
Can you drop the team's call sound in here?
No,
just
because I don't want to
like,
hurt
all of
anyone.
the physical pain it causes me. All right, back over to MK and Niko. This, and I'm asking you two this and not Brian because he's seen it. This is from Zeta Gundam. Quote 1. Men are perhaps born to fight each other, and women are perhaps fated to be their tools. Quote 2.
Gender, okay.
Hey, light. Light is spreading, huh? A large star is blinking. Ha ha, it's huge. Is it a comet? No, it can't be. A comet moves like a bat. It's really hot in here, huh? There must be a way out. Hey, please get me out of here. Hey! And quote 3. You think you can defeat me? You are nothing but a child. You have no idea what it means to fight for a cause, to sacrifice everything for the future of your people. This is for the villain Haman Khan, or Haman Kar, depending on your translation.
The second quote sounds like the stream of consciousness of a person dying in a Honda Civic. Like,
Don't start. Just.
Gundam fans are fucking reeling from that one, Niko.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I have nothing to say.
Okay. I don't think it's number 3, because I think that number 3 is the Quattro Vegeta original.
yeah, that feels right.
That sounds like a Char Aznable line.
Do we want to go with the most heinous of gender?
That's pretty funny.
All right, let's think on quote 1.
That is incorrect.
Thank Christ.
That is
I hope
not the
someone
quote.
cool and normal didn't say that. Actually, I got confused. I really hope that just...
Rakoa? No, not cool and normal at all.
No.
It's going to be really funny if I turn out to be wrong about number 3 being a Char Aznable quote, but...
That brings us back to the other team. August and Brian, you have a chance to steal. Is it the second or the third quote that was spoken by Haman?
I know the answer. So,
I trust you.
It's 3.
That is correct. It is 3.
Yeah,
I can't believe Hamani Barako said that.
2 is the last line spoken of the protagonist while he has a complete fucking mental breakdown. So...
AKA dies in a Honda Civic.
Yeah. If the Zeta Gundam is a Honda Civic, then yes.
Yeah, rip Camille.
Honda Civics can be mechs.
If you leave your impressions on them and give them a soul.
Haman very much inspired by Char, so she speaks a lot like him, or did. Rest in peace, Haman.
Okay, is this from the series that I've seen the screenshots of where she drops someone out of a plane and then headshots him just to stunt? Is this? Is this her?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Powerful.
the one.
What
a queen.
She also pilots my favorite gunpla that I have. So
The Queebly?
yeah.
The
I have a
Queebly.
Queebly back on my shelf. All right. It does go back to you, August and Brian. This is from Gundam Wing. Now, we're not gonna get into who the villain is, but the Char allegory is Zex Marquise.
Yes.
So that's who we are assigning.
At
Okay?
every moment in your life, you need to be looking around and asking yourself, who is the Char allegory?
Who is the blonde psychopath in the room?
Why did they keep putting Char XPs into their own series? Don't answer this question.
Totally original character, do not steal. That just keeps showing up in every game you play. You know, that NPC you always bring back. Anyway, quote 1. The people who try to kill me and the people who fight against me are my enemies. Quote 2. Quote 2. My efforts are for my love of outer space. Quote 3. These pilots never perceive anything as being inevitable or predestined. That's what makes them professionals in combat. Now, which one of these is from Zex Marquise?
The second one is just Carl Sagan.
It's not your turn. So calm down.
Saying.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I just put one Cosmos quote in here just to throw you all out. It's the entire pale blue dot monologue.
I want to strike 2, I feel like is my instinct, because that doesn't really speak to Zex's motivations, right?
Yeah.
Because Wing is not very much Earth versus space. And I don't want it to be 1 because that's a stupid thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah, so by process of elimination, to live in the world that we want to live in.
Yeah.
Manifest that shit.
Yeah.
We'll go with 3.
It's for the world that we hope to live in, for the world that we hope to be. I guess we're synced on number 3.
Yeah.
Me using my Teen's Guide to Manifestation to manifest an answer.
Oh my god.
Don't know why I have that in arm's reach. You're correct. That is from Zex.
Okay.
The first one is from Hiro, our main man, the hero of the story, Hiro. All right. That brings us back to MK and Niko. This is from Gundam 0083, my favorite series, sometimes called Gundam if it was Top Gun. Quote number
Gundam.
1. And I do have to scream these ones too. I'm sorry. It's just, that's the series.
Turn this down.
Solomon, I have returned. Quote 2, one who fights for what's right shouldn't concern himself with trifles. And quote 3, there isn't a machine out there I can't master. Which of these is spoken by General Delaz of the Delaz fleet?
The second one is just like wild top energy. Like RIP to any mech that's not down for that.
Damn.
Number 2 is your classic the ends justify the means, which is a classic villain moment. I don't know who Solomon is.
Solomon is a place.
Yeah. Oh.
This is Solomon from the original series.
Okay. What are you feeling,
Which
MK?
you know.
Oh, the problem is that I feel like any of the 3 of these could be the right quote, and Alice is laughing at me.
Gundam dialogue is so not character
Gundam dialogue
specific.
is so...
Everyone's just saying things.
Everyone's just saying things all the time.
Reverting to my usual tactic of whichever one is the funniest, I think it's number 3.
Yeah, I can get in with that. Yeah.
All right, we're syncing on number 3.
Incorrect. That is from Ko Araki, the main boy of that series.
Oh, of course
which brings
it
us
is.
back to August and Brian. What? Oop, I posted the other one.
Yeah,
Which one of those two? Sorry, I posted the next one already. But what of the remaining 2 between Solomon and Trifles do you think it is?
Okay.
I'm always having to choose between Solomon and Trifles.
There's a hint here, and it's in the plot of Top Gun, I feel like, but I don't know the plot of Top Gun, so I'm lost.
The plot of Top Gun is like beach volleyball shirtless and, you know, they should have kissed, but that isn't reflected in either of the remaining quotes, so...
I guess what I would say is, does the Top Gun villain, is he the kind of villain who thinks he's doing the right thing, or is he like mustache twirling, like psycho? Because here's the thing,
So the villain in Top Gun is the Russians.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mean the guy who he has to earn?
I don't know.
To acknowledge him as a fellow pilot?
I have no idea.
Let's get into Top Gun.
No!
Okay. I think I would just default to Niko strategy, which is the funniest one, and I think the first one is the funniest one. Because villains love to just shout at towns they're descending upon.
The second one.
That is correct. Delaz said that when he was very dismissive of what was going on. All right, back to August and Brian, who stole, which I totally remembered if we cut this correctly. It sounds like I knew what I was doing. This is from Gundam Seed. Again, no one should watch these. Quote 1. I'm sure war results are important, but please do not forget about the people who sacrificed their lives along the way. Quote 2. I am the only one who's earned that right in the entire universe. I alone have the right to judge all of humanity. Quote 3. What the hell can you protect with just your feelings? Which of these is by La Crusette?
So this man... I feel like this man would say the second one. If you look up La Crusette, first of all, Gundam Seed character design is really baffling to me. I will never really get what's going on here. But second of all, this man says diabolical shit like that, I feel like.
He does look like he's in an opera.
He definitely doesn't say the first one. That much is I will say is my opinion on that.
Yeah, the first one sounds like a reporter on a news program trying to sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
It's propaganda. It sounds like propaganda, so
all 3 Gundam Seed fans are reeling from that.
I'm sorry,
including
except
you,
probably
visibly.
not.
Oh God, please stop posting pictures of La Crusette.
Photo of La Crusette.
Oh my God.
This is specific. This is actually, he is saying one of these quotes in this screenshot.
Oh my God.
I think he's probably saying the liberal
This is
one.
the one.
The liberal one about the war results.
You love to see it.
What do you guys think? What are you thinking on?
I'm willing to leave it to a coin toss.
Okay.
TBH. So if you have a strong feeling, I will follow your lead.
I want to say 2. That's my strong feeling.
That is correct. La Crusette is the only one who has the right to judge all of humanity.
Well, it's good to know. Like, it's good
Look
to
how
know if we
normal
need to
he is
reach out
about
to
it.
him. Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right, that brings us back to MK and Niko. This is from Char's counterattack.
Who's the villain of this one?
Bureaucrats, actually.
That's true.
But for the purposes of this game, Char Aznable.
Oh, damn, I wouldn't have guessed.
Quote 1. That's our purpose. We have to show the world the light in the human heart. Quote 2. Following the revolution, the worthy passions for rebirth are swallowed up by the bureaucracy and the mediocrity. Quote 3. The people on Earth do nothing but pollute it. Their souls are weighed down by gravity. Which of these 3 lines is by Char Aznable?
So the second line was said by Stalin, and the third line was said by Austin Walker. So I think...
Wow.
Just Jesus. What are you thinking, MK?
Shit. Hold on, that was really funny.
I just... This is...
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is a
It's
lot.
over. So over.
It's so over. That's Friends at the Table in a nutshell. One quote was said by Stalin, one quote was said by Austin Walker, and one quote was said by Char Aznable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say that with all affection in my heart. I love Friends at the Table. Just as a caveat.
I think it might be 3.
Man.
Because 2 feels like someone who has more insight than the guy I once saw in a gift set fencing with Amuro Ray and then doing a helmet kiss, which is also the only other piece of Char Aznable information I have.
I will say at one point, and I think it might be in Char's counterattack, they do get into like a fucking fist fight in formal wear in the grass where they go rolling down a hill, like in a very homosexual way. So I'm like,
that's where the meme are they lovers, and the response is worse. That's where that comes from. Yeah.
I love this GIF, Alice, that you've just posted.
The comments always come back.
The Quattro Pagina magical girl transformation sequence.
All right, what are you thinking on?
I'm actually really tempted to say 1.
You know what? I'll be with you. I'm your pilot. You're my mech. Let's get in there. Let's sync on 1.
Unfortunately, that is not correct.
No,
Means we
Char
go back to
definitely
August
said
and Brian.
that.
Of the following 2 quotes, which one was said by Char Aznable?
So, do we think that Char Aznable is more of a Stalin guy or more of an Austin Walker guy?
The 2 genders.
That's the quote. That's the quote.
I think it depends on the timeline that you're in. I haven't seen Char's counterattack, but I know that the plot involves Char trying to drop an asteroid on Australia. So I want to say that my instinct is for the third one because that sounds like somebody who is about to drop an asteroid on Australia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot that was the plot. I was like, no, hold on a second. Is Char trying to destroy the world, or
Just
is he not
Australia.
trying to? I couldn't remember what the counterattack was.
He's trying to make humans leave Earth by Anyway, you're right. That is the right answer. But let's get into Char's... No, we can't. We can't get into Char's counterattack.
We can't get into Char's counterattack.
The twist on this one is the first 2 are both by Amuro Ray from his speech about why revolutions fail. That's it. There's the full speech. You can all enjoy the great writing of Char's counterattack.
Disillusioned white Maoist Amuro Ray.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Amuro had a bad time in 79.
Amuro has never stopped having a bad time.
That's true.
His shit in Zeta is truly heart-wrenching, I think.
All right, that brings us back to August and Brian. This is from Gundam Wing. Quote 1. In that case, your battles will never end, since your enemy is destiny itself. Quote 2. These pilots never perceive anything as being inevitable or predestined. That's what makes them professionals in combat. Quote 3. Let's discard our desire to fight. Such hearts have no place in our future. Which of these 3 is from Zex Marquise?
So you definitely had the second one in there twice, because that was the answer from the last time you asked the Wing question.
Are you sinking on that answer?
Yeah,
You found
I'm
my
willing to.
ruse. Which is I've reused the animation cells for this episode of Gundam Wing.
No!
And it is the same answer as before. You get a point.
Oh my god.
Thank you. That was technically played twice in the show because it was in one of the it ends and then they do the intro. You know Gundam Wing, how the first 5 minutes were just the last 5 minutes of the last episode so we could make it 49 episodes long. Anybody else here?
And yet still the plot does not follow from one event to the next anyway, even though they do that. Yeah, I remember Gundam Wing.
What a wonderful series. All right, that brings us back to MK and Niko.
Yes.
This is from Turn A Gundam.
Okay, I know
What
this
one?
one. This one's about judo, and there's a guy with a mustache. Yeah.
It also has a Yoko Kanno soundtrack.
Okay,
Yes.
I may have to watch this one. Yoko
It's
Kanno
so
has
good.
gotten me places I wouldn't go with a gun.
The soundtrack fucking slaps. I'm so mad that one of my exes destroyed my copy of the soundtrack. But
Oh
it
my
is
god.
so good.
Just tell me where they're at. Just tell me
Alice
where they're
approaching
at.
their location at speed.
Quote 1. Even in the face of adversity, we must hold on to our dreams and never give up. Quote 2. War is a cycle of destruction, but we have the power to break it. We must choose a path of creation and hope. Quote 3. We must cherish our memories and the lessons they teach us, for they are the foundation of our future. Which of these was spoken by Jim, which is the name of the villain in Turn A, Jim GYM?
Hey, I hate to say it, but none of these are about mustaches or judo, so I'm kind of lost.
I'm not sure where you got the judo part from.
Well, I thought for sure Turn A was the one that's about judo. Anyway, these
Our
are
Gundam expert.
these are things that are printed on inspirational workplace posters.
But which one's said by the villain?
What are you thinking, MK? I could see the second one because, villains tend to think that they're choosing the path of creation and hope, but
I could also see it. I feel like I'll just kind of go with what your pick is, and maybe that'll do us better than me dragging you off course.
okay. Then we're gonna sync on 2, and I'm gonna think really hard about it being about mustaches.
That is correct.
Yes!
That was, in fact,
About
spoken
mustaches.
by Jim Gingham, which is his real full name.
You mean Gingham?
Jim Gingham.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce
Jim
words. We've
Gingham.
established that.
Jim Gingham is my cousin. Jim Gingham still lives in Rabbit Town in Alabama.
Does Jim Kingham have a cast iron mech?
Jim Gingham has a cast iron mech. And it's well seasoned, but
How many stones is that mech?
I couldn't say. I wouldn't dare to guess.
Sorry, I thought the villain of Turn A was the sunglasses guy. I've never seen this man before. I am very put on my back foot by this image.
Okay, please supply photo of the man.
Jim Gingham.
This man is named Jim GYM.
I'm getting literally nothing.
Hold on, sorry.
Turn A is great, guys. This is an actual recommendation. Turn A is actually a good Gundam because it has nothing to do with any of the other Gundams, and it has people of color in it.
I am absolutely bodied by this man.
Yeah.
The energy.
Yeah.
Energy.
For reference,
How do I
this
describe
is who
this
I
man?
thought the villain was. Hold on.
Okay.
Are you about to post another fucking
Yes.
Charasul XP?
Oh, yeah. You think?
Yeah, of course, it's Gundam!
Always.
This is who I thought we were talking about this whole time.
Bug-ass motherfucker.
That is a common writer.
I believe this man's name is Harry. I'm not sure, though.
You can't be naming people things like Jim Gingham and Harry.
Yes, you can.
This is fucked
oh,
up.
shit. It's time for a bonus question. So,
Yes.
we've all been keeping score during this game of who's winning.
Yeah, we definitely
It's
have.
probably a tie, so this is the one to win it all. None of you have been
The
keeping
kind
score.
of scorekeeping and integrity that we prize here on the Shoulders of Giants.
It's game changer scoring. I'm familiar.
I've been here the whole time.
Alice would lock us in a room and make us not look at a pig. I believe this about her.
Alice says. So, this one is a buzz in first. So, you have to talk amongst yourselves, and then once you're ready, yell the word sink, and then you can submit your answer. First answer wins it all. So I'm going to give you 3 quotes, and this time I'm going to tell you who they're from, but I'm not going to tell you who the villain is. You have to determine, based on these quotes, which of these 3 is from the villain of the series. Now, pretty important little note here. These are all from children, and not in the Gundam children way. These are from 10 to 12-year-olds in the Gundam series. Actual children.
Wait, we have to decide which child is evil?
Correct.
Pure vibes.
Pure vibes.
No one has ever asked, was the child's vibes just whack? Like,
This first one is from Camille. I hate you adults and your lies. Our second quote is from Mary Maya. I am told that there is an adult world that children do not understand, so I cannot begin to explain why I have come to live in this world. And our quote 3 is from Uso. Why do adults make children fight their wars? Now, which of these is from an evil child? Discuss amongst yourselves.
MK, what are you? I'm thinking, I agree. Sink.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
I think we're gonna go with the third quote.
Yes.
That is incorrect.
Oh.
August and Brian,
Yeah.
you have a chance to steal and win the game. Which of those remaining 2 quotes is from an evil child?
I feel like the second quote is from like a vampire child who's like working on like infiltrating the world of politics and turning the bureaucrats into her thralls. So I would like to go with that one.
I agree, and I also, just for logistics' sake, the first one is by the hero, so it has to be 2, I feel like.
You don't think the hero could be the villain? Wow.
They could be, but having seen the show that it's about, they are not, so...
This inside baseball, watching Gundam on the Mech podcast.
Now, here's the important moment where I reveal I have been Shara Aznabal the entire time.
Oh, Alice was the villain. Alice was the evil child.
There was no villain in this question. All of the children involved in this were forced into war outside of their will. There is no right answer.
Damn.
Wow.
Just kidding, it's number 2. That bitch was a fascist. Let's go, Brian!
Oh, I just experienced the full spectrum of human emotion.
Check out our coverage of Endless Waltz this December, and you too can learn what a child fascist looks like.
So you can recognize them in your own life.
Well, it looks like 2 of our pilots synced pretty well. What does that look like? What's our epilogue for you two?
Well, who won?
Brian and August, I just said.
Oh, okay.
Listen with your goddamn ears.
Damn.
No.
The vibes we've brought to the studio today.
Let me see. So I think that, at least for my first vignette, I think this is me and Brian, like, beholding the damage we have wrought and realizing that what we've done, while necessary, wasn't the best thing for our mental health. Like, I feel like we're struck with the horrors of war since, we're a Gundam podcast now. So the horrors of war have to be in there somewhere. So I'm doing that for my first vignette.
Brian, what's your vignette?
For
vignette number 2?
I think I agree. Seeing the discarded remnants of Niko and MK's struggle against us. I think we have to turn around and walk into the sunset solemnly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And what's your last vignette? What's your third card?
Party with Doritos.
Yeah. Maybe a little tequila. Just Doritos and tequila.
Just
That's it.
Doritos and tequila.
Girl dinner.
Unfortunately, not all of our mechs and pilots could sync correctly. We did have a very brutal desync. What is your first vignette card, you two?
I don't think that it was that brutal of a desync.
I think we were synced, but I think the sync was not good for us. We kept doing
I think they were
bits.
very minor desyncs, right? Like, there's a very minor difference that was just eked up above.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we thinking for our vignette? Okay. Well,
I have to remember how to play this game.
Just come out with a cool vignette.
Yeah,
a cool epilogue scene. That's it.
Well, I mean, as already described, we've been left kind of in the wastes of our own lives, having been destroyed by Team Doritos and Tequila. So...
Is Doritos the pilot or the mech?
Y'all have to decide which adjective, Doritos or Tequila. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's we're just like laying at our destroyed MK with destroyed Niko. So that's our first vignette. Just the aftermath. We're just languishing.
I think the second vignette is the same, but a tumbleweed passes over us to show that time has passed.
Is it like...
To show that time has
Okay, and the third vignette, the final vignette, because I gotta call back to my starred adjective that had no part in the game we just played, I grabbed the tumbleweed and I put it in my pocket. End of show. End of game.
Play the music from Carl Sagan's Cosmos outro right here.
Oh.
I've never betrayed anybody in my life, but that's the end of our game. Oh shit, we have a flash transmission. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh shit.
Are you okay?
Oh fuck.
I
God,
always
these
feel
flash
like you
transmissions
take...
really hurt.
Yeah.
They really hurt.
They all transmit through your, like, fillings.
Yeah.
Yeah, flash transmission. Our flash transmission is as follows. Hello, OSG crew. First off, I want to thank you all for such a wonderful podcast.
Thank you.
It helps me get through my work days and happen to fall into my special interest, mecha. Metal or made of flesh, I love them. I wanted to know, hell yeah, me. I wanted to know if y'all were planning on making a Discord in the future for the pod. I would love to see a server that holds the same open and welcoming energy you all have. Thank you for taking the time to read this. P.S. Sorry if this email sounds weird. A bitch is dyslexic as fuck. Flower, Shive. Thank you for writing, Flower.
Hi, Flower.
Yes.
I just want to... I know... So, Fall of the Leader has a Discord, do you not?
Yeah, it's follow
We do.
the Discord.
Yeah,
Follow the Discord.
we have a Discord, and then we also, so like the room where it happened Discord is kind of like the Standing Stones Discord by default.
Okay.
So you can go either place if you wanted to hear people talk about FTL.
Mm-hmm.
But having a Discord is so fun, though. It's fun to create new emojis and then spam them.
My, like, one thing with having a Discord is that, like, be prepared to mod it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or to, like, have people who are around who will be able to mod it. Like, that's really kind of the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big consideration is making a Discord is just, like, how much moderation are we going to be able
That's
to
exactly
do?
my
Yeah.
thought.
Like, actually.
Because as social media person, I feel like that would basically fall to me. And so, like, of course, the two of you feel free to weigh in, of course, but my answer is, like, maybe someday. Right now, I feel like if we did one, it would probably be, like, Flower and two other people.
Which we would appreciate, but also...
August and I both are raising our hands like, us!
But
But that's not a bad thing either.
No.
Like, the Follow the Leader Discord is, like, really small, but, like, it's nice to just to know that you have it.
And so I would probably want to read up on ways to do that mod work. And also, the Discords that I'm in, that I'm active in, have had like a maximum of 10 people in them. And so I'd want to look up, like, knowing how to run a Discord that has more people in it one day. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I really appreciate the sentiment and obviously love that you wrote in. I think at some point in the future we can maybe consider it, but it will be... I think it's a little further in the future in terms of, like, the amount of time we could put in.
Right now, we can barely get episodes together. So.
Well, it would
Releasing
help.
on time every time.
It would help if we could stop getting married, having major surgeries, moving, buying houses, adopting animals. You know, we'll pause all our lives, and when all that calms down, we can do the Discord. So look
And
out for
until then,
that.
head on over to the Follow the Leader Discord and hang out there. You want to hang out with some queers into cool stuff? Just go. It's MK's problem.
It's August's problem and MK's problem.
And to shout out a third thing too, if you are dying for a Discord where you can talk mecha stuff, I will say the Giant Robot FM Discord is a really, really awesome place. I have become more active on it lately. All the people there are extremely chill. And while it's not like specifically a queer space, I'm there, so it is now.
That's true. Brian has that effect on Discords.
Yeah. Shout out to our Oni-chan podcast, Giant Robot FM. Oh, shit. We need to establish where in the family hierarchy Follow the Leader is.
We already did. You did it on the Uprising episode. They are.
I was gonna say I just listened to that episode.
They are senpai.
What did I assign?
They're senpai.
Oh, senpai.
Oh, senpai. Yeah.
Senpai podcast.
Yes.
I can be the cute kohai finally. Yeah.
No one can stop you.
No one can stop me. But yeah, maybe in the future, but keep writing to us. That's the best way to get in contact with us. Or at Brian on what social media websites still exist?
Oh no, don't open that wound.
So currently
we have a Tumblr.
We have a Tumblr. And then the one that the really active stuff where I'm posting all the ads and episode drops and everything is Blue Sky and Twitter. Regrettably, even though I don't like either of them, and RIP co-host.
RIP co-host. Yeah.
RIP co-host. Let's close up that flash transmission in the mailbag.
Is that what you do with those? Do you fold them?
I actually print. You remember those old dot matrix printers? I print every single viewer mail out, then I peel off the weird side.
We can't afford to have a Discord because Alice keeps printing video messages onto a dot matrix printer.
Nobody can stop me. But it's time to circle back to what I talked to before. Follow the Leader. Season 8 just started this July. Tell us about it, you two. What are you guys getting into on this season of Follow the Leader?
I would like to think that this season is wall-to-wall bangers. We started off with a cliffhanger, finishing up the cliffhanger from season 7, and I don't think that we have stopped running since. I want to highlight the second arc of the season, which
you
we
have
played.
to give numbers, August. There's too many.
You're right,
season...
though. Hang on. Yeah, no.
The problem is
right.
that we accidentally set a precedent when we started the podcast of our seasons only being 12 arcs long. So if you know your 12 times tables, you can kind of track where seasons start and end. But if you don't, you're fucked.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Yeah,
sorry, you immediately lost me.
Episodes 86.1 and 86.2, I'd rather eat glass. And if you want to make a pact, Last Train to Bremen by Kara Surgeon. Really good game. I feel really good, really proud of the storytelling we did, and I feel pretty good about the audio production on that one. So that's a really standout one. And if you, for some reason, are not listening to FTL currently, but are familiar with the City of Gulls in FTL land, we're back, baby. Episodes 91.1, 2, and 3. Are some more City of Gulls action, if you like that sort of thing.
91.3 comes out tomorrow as of recording.
Yep. So that will be out for y'all to listen to by the time this goes up. Go check it out.
This is the point in the episode in which I reveal that I haven't been on FTL since the end of season 6, except for the City of Gulls episode.
But you know what? You know what you have been up to? Writing a shitload of games. Tell us where people can find your work and everything that you're up to, MK.
Yeah, basically every social media that I use the same handle on, so you can find me. I'm probably at this point most active on Tumblr, unfortunately, at citadelofswords.tumblr.com. I'm also on Blue Sky, at citadelofswords.bsky.social, whatever the fuck the handles are. If you search for it, it'll pop up. The games that I have written in the past, including a custom Beam Saber playbook, are at citadelofswords.itch.io. I have not written a game in 2 years, but I don't know, maybe something will happen at some point.
Yeah, you never know.
And then I guess I'm on Twitter, but who the fuck is following people on Twitter?
I know. I went to check for Rufus Roswell's social media to plug, and it was just like, Twitter that hasn't been used in a year, and I'm just like, oof.
Yeah, he doesn't do the social media thing very much anymore. Which I respect. Everybody who's quit social media, I respect you so much.
Yeah. And those of us who have quit except for Tumblr, nothing but disrespect.
Unfortunately, I crave validation, so.
And how about you, August? Where can they find more of your stuff?
So I'm on Tumblr at strangeharpy.tumblr.com. You can see me be a degenerate about my current OTPs. And you can find some of the games I've written at harpydora.itch.io. We've played some of them on FTL. If that thing stays in that I said earlier about playtesting with my spouse, the game that I playtested with my spouse is also up there. Yeah, that's where folks can find me. One day, Gay Space Rocks will return from the war, which is a media discussion podcast I have with my friend Brian from the room where it happened. It'll return from the war one day.
Yeah, we pray for it.
If you ever find time in your schedule for it again.
People need to know more about Solomio, my OTP, so I do hope it returns. Anything else you guys want to plug? Any other throwouts? Things you like? I don't know.
Things you don't like? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, what don't you like?
Yeah, it's time for the burn book. No.
I don't like candy corn.
Fair.
Damn, controversial fall opinion.
Yeah,
this is hot takes.
It almost tore our guild apart last night, and wow, somebody was like talking about how much they love candy corn, and everybody else was like, "Shut your whore mouth."
No. Well, everyone write in.
I'm neutral to positive on candy corn. It's not going to be something that I pick, but if you put it in front of me, I'll eat half a bowl.
Fuck you guys, candy corn is great. Big thanks to the Follow the Leader crew. Well, two of them, one not since season 6, but thank you to both of you, both August and MK, for showing up and talking to us about Random Access Histories and some other stuff.
Yeah, it was great. Fun. Thank you for having us.
Guys, candy corn isn't, like, terrible. It's not...
You gotta stop. Just do the
Smarties
outro.
is like chalk. That's a bad candy. Candy corn is at least mid. Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback about how great candy corn is to the same address. You can also catch up with us on social media, links in the description, rest in peace co-host, for updates and more. Make sure to check back in 2 weeks when we'll be discussing Cosmic Warlord Kinbright. Until then, goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. Wow.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.